Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. Who is he? Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. And who is he? Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. And what he do? And he's gonna react to all the self-snitching.
Hi, this is Bruce Rivers. Welcome to another episode of Criminal Lawyer Reacts, CLR Bruce Rivers. I am Bruce Rivers, board-certified criminal defense lawyer, where I actually don't do just this. I love doing this, but I actually go across the street to the courthouse and try cases. Now, today we are reacting to post-verdict shenanigans by the Amber Heard team. Now, notice there was just one brief statement from the Johnny Depp team, just thanking everybody, and it was very short, very sweet, and that's it. You haven't seen them make the rounds on the talk show circuit. They may or may not, but I think here's the problem that Amber Heard's team has. They're going forward and making statements that she's a domestic abuse victim, and they don't have a verdict to support that. But let's kind of watch what Elaine had to say, and then I'll react to it on the other side of it.
A Virginia jury's decision to side with Johnny Depp in his defamation lawsuit is drawing both condemnation and praise. The verdict came after 6 weeks of very dramatic testimony from both sides. She claimed that he abused her, while he said she was the abuser. In his reaction, Depp wrote, "The goal of bringing the case was to reveal the truth, and that truth never perishes."
I've had a lot of people, not a lot of people, but some people talk about this notion that this has set the women's movement back, or the Me Too movement back. The light of day is not going to put any movement back. Facts are what rule the day. And if a woman is to be believed, which they should be believed, but it should withstand scrutiny, and the facts got in the way of Amber Heard.
Elaine Charlson-Bredehoff is the attorney for Amber Heard and is with us now. And we should mention, we did also reach out to Johnny Depp's team, but they declined to be interviewed this morning. Elaine, thank you. We're so very glad you're here.
Thank you.
We heard Amber's reaction to the verdict yesterday. This seems to be a huge victory for Johnny Depp this morning.
Yeah, a major setback for women, for women
Bullshit.
inside the courtroom and outside the courtroom.
Because?
Because basically what this said, Amber had an enormous amount of evidence, although a lot of it was suppressed in this case as opposed to the UK. But look at all the women who have no evidence.
So Amber Heard had a lot of evidence. She didn't have any photographs of any injuries. And there were several rebuttal witnesses who completely contradicted her. And in fact, she didn't have really hardly any witnesses that corroborated her to a degree that she was discredited on rebuttal.
All these women who suffer from domestic violence, domestic abuse, they don't have evidence. And basically what this jury said is, unless you pull out your cell phone and you tape record your spouse beating you.
That isn't what they said. There were so many things that were absolutely provably false. And I think that's, remember what I said a while back? Falso in uno, falso in omnibus. If you're lying about one thing, you're lying about everything. That's the credibility of a witness.
You're out of luck.
But Elaine, I think it was bigger than that, because you had the evidence, as you say, but they did not believe her. Why do you think they did not believe her?
I think that a lot of that was that it was Johnny Depp.
Not the facts of the case. No. It couldn't be that they shoved a bunch of rebuttal witnesses up her ass and completely contradicted her with facts. It has nothing to do with Johnny Depp. Why weren't there, she goes to the courthouse with a bruise on her face, supposedly, 6 days after she had seen him with no makeup on. And she didn't set that up. She set that.
I think the celebrity status.
But she's a celebrity too.
And it's not only not
she's she's a celebrity too.
Right.
Here's the problem. You're on this losing side. To be honest with you, nothing can be gained by her making this appearance on TV, honestly. I think it was smart for the Depp team to decline and not be public about this. I'm sure Johnny Depp says, I don't want this. I don't want you to trash her. I don't want you to say anything about her. And now you've got Elaine kind of going ham on Johnny Depp.
But you have to remember, it's a tale of two trials. All the evidence came in the UK. Mr. Depp brought that one. The burden of proof was on the son in the UK because they had called him a wife beater and talked about the domestic violence.
See, in the UK, Amber Heard wasn't a defendant. So it just was, it's not really analogous at all.
He had his opportunity to tell the truth then. And a 3-week trial, he lost. The judge found 12 acts of domestic violence, including sexual violence. And that came out November 2, 2020. We weren't allowed to tell the jury that.
Well, it's a different system, and the judge, it wasn't a jury, it was a judge. The judge said it was substantial.
And it's a completely different set of facts in terms of, you've got different parties. And whatever that verdict over there was has no bearing on what the jury is going to consider in this case.
Really true, and that is significant, and I think surprised a lot of legal analysts. But in this case, the jury not only didn't believe Amber Heard, but in ruling that she acted with actual malice, that means she had the intent to cause harm, right? That's a pretty high standard to have proven.
And it's pretty amazing since the op-ed never even mentioned Mr. Depp. You have to remember that. What they learned from the UK case.
The op-ed never even mentioned Mr. Depp. But didn't Amber Heard, in her testimony, she said it was about him. And then the jury believed her when she said that.
Is to demonize Amber, which is what they did, and to try to suppress as much of the evidence that came in the UK and did not come in the United States. But the other problem is we had cameras in the courtroom. So here we had not only did...
It's everybody's fault but mine.
We have a group of Depp fans that were there every day. 100 were allowed in. They lined up at 1 o'clock in the morning for their wristbands to be in that courtroom. But we had everything on camera, and we had tremendous social media that was very, very, very much against Amber.
It was pointed out that that was the first time that a victim of sexual abuse had to testify on live television.
And I fought hard and lost that battle. It should not have happened.
Most laws about cameras in the courtroom, if one party wants them in, they come in.
So I am a former NFL player, and after a hard loss, it's easy to wake up and point to the other side. Oftentimes, I realized the better thing to do was to look in the mirror. What mistakes did I make as a player? What mistakes did our coaching staff make? And then how can we improve from there? Do you feel like you guys made any mistakes along the way? Do you feel like Amber made a mistake while she was on the stand? Because you're saying it's the celebrity, it's Johnny, it's the people who support him. But what about you and your team?
Now, that is an excellent point. And the thing about it is, it's really hard for somebody who charges about $6 million to defend Amber Heard to say they made a mistake. And you sit there, she's not going to self-snitch. I mean, that's just not what she's going to do.
Well, and that's an excellent question. And to say, and Amber even said on the stand, I am not perfect.
Okay, let's blame Amber.
I am a human being. These people were giving her death threats. They threatened to microwave her baby. This is the kind of social media she was getting.
So microwaving the baby is why you lost the case. That's something you did wrong?
So are any of us perfect? No. Is there something else we feel we should have done? Yes, absolutely. I redo my closings 100 times afterwards, whether I win or lose. That's part of being a good lawyer, a good trial lawyer. Is
Bullshit. I don't redo my closing 100 times. If you literally redid your closing 100 times, guess what? You're indecisive and you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Pardon my French.
There's always something. But I think that there were a lot of influences here that were beyond our control. And I think the social media, it was like a Roman Colosseum. It is the best way to describe the atmosphere here. And I have to believe that the jury, even though they're told not to go and look at anything, they have.
So now it's the jury's fault for looking at social media. So, I mean, so it's the judge, it's Amber's imperfect, she's pointing any fingers back at herself? No.
Weekends, they have families, they have
they were not sequestered. They were not sequestered.
And the 10-day period we had, how could they not have been influenced?
But Elaine, for most people watching this trial, and a lot of people, as you know, it got huge views. It just seemed to be so messy and salacious and so tawdry on both sides. on both sides. And I think for a lot of people from the outside looking in thought both of them were not telling the truth and that they had they mutually abused each other. Do you not believe that that was the case?
No, and that's one of the many misnomers. The way that Depp's team approached this was based on ignorance of domestic violence.
The way the Depp team approaches is to kick your ass.
It completely ignored the cycle of violence and just said, oh, she wouldn't have done this if he had been hitting her. That was their approach.
So you thought that they weren't fighting fair?
Correct. I don't think they were fighting fair.
Objection. 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 I'm trying here, Judge. I'm trying. I mean, what the hell?
I think Amber Heard is, in fact, a survivor of domestic violence.
Yes, I absolutely believe that, and there's a tremendous amount of evidence.
The problem that she could run into some defamation problems herself.
Much of which did not come into this trial, did come into the UK trial. We even had more evidence. We had medical records. We had mental health records that went back to 2012 that were contemporaneous. We had text messages from Mr. Depp's assistant saying, when I told him that he had kicked you, he cried.
So how is she today, Elaine? How is she today? What is her next move?
She's right. Well, her next move is appeal. There were
but
a number.
She's heartbroken.
She is.
She ain't gonna appeal it. She's worth what? -8 million. She's donated $7 million synonymously with pledged to a couple charities, and now she owes 8.3. So she's worth the -8 million and net worth. And so is she gonna have to now put a bond up? She's gonna have to put a bond up for at least 10 million plus. That's the amount of the judgment plus attorney's fees.
She is heartbroken. And one of the first things that she said when she came back from the verdict, when we went into the conference room, was, I am so sorry to all these women.
She said that?
Yes. She felt like she had let down all of these women because she had...
Well, she did, because she used the fake domestic abuse to further her ends.
Had more evidence than most people do, and yet they still didn't believe her.
Elaine Charleston-Bredehoff, thank you so much for...
So that's her on the ABC Morning Show. Let's just take a glimpse. I'm not going to play the whole thing, but let's see what happens with her on the Today Show.
Amber Heard's attorney, Elaine Charleston-Bredehoff, good morning to you. First question, how is Amber doing? We saw her hearing that verdict. It took a long time to read. It was a sweeping verdict for Johnny Depp. How did she handle it?
You know, one of the first things she said is, I am so sorry.
Gee, it sounds similar to what she just said. I mean, this is going to be word for word.
Sorry to all those women out there. This is a setback for all women in and outside the courtroom. And she feels the burden of that.
Well, knowing the case and knowing the law, as you certainly do, it favors defendants like Amber Heard. Are you stunned that the jury essentially rejected her story?
Well, you know, really what happened here is it's a tale of two trials.
Sounds similar?
Johnny Depp brought a suit in the UK for the same case. And
it isn't the same case. It is not the same case. It was a case against a newspaper.
And the burden of proof was easier for him there. The Sun had to actually prove that it was true, and the court found there, and we weren't allowed to tell the jury this, but the court found that Mr. Depp had committed at least 12 acts of domestic violence, including sexual violence.
Totally different process there, totally different standard, and you only have one fact finder, and that is the judge in that case.
Against Amber. So what did Depp's team learn from this? Demonize Amber and suppress the evidence. In
other words, challenge the facts.
We had an enormous amount of evidence that was...
I'm not going to play the rest of it, but you get the gist. I don't think it's wise for Elaine to go on these shows. I mean, you're the losing side, and you're not taking any responsibility for losing, and everybody has a problem except for you. This is the jury's problem. It's the judge's problem. It's the Depp team. You got your ass kicked, and guess what you do when you get your ass kicked? Because I've gotten my ass kicked many times. You shut the fuck up and you just kind of move along your way. and you go on to the next case. I really doubt that Amber Heard is going to appeal this. So this has just been a little bit of a lane. And one other issue came up. A TikToker is claiming to be a juror and said that most of the people in the on the jury wanted to give him the $50 million that he was asking for to holdouts, and so they compromised. And that's what I thought all along. I thought they did prove their damages pretty well, but the $2 million for Amber and the $15 million for Johnny Depp, that seemed like a compromise verdict to me. And compromise is something that happens all the time with these verdicts. So this has been Criminal Lawyer Reacts, reacting to the post-trial shenanigans on the Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard case. So we'll see you next time. Make sure you subscribe, follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter, sign up for Patreon, and spread the word. Stop yourself snitching. Bruce Rivers, Criminal Lawyer Reacts. We'll see you next time.